Something just happened in Cleveland, and most people don't realize how big it actually is. At first, it looks like a simple contract adjustment, just numbers moving around, nothing crazy, but if you really understand what just happened, you start to see it differently. Because Myles Garrett didn't have to do this. This is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, the face of the franchise, a player with all the leverage in the world, and instead of holding onto every dollar, he chose to give the team more flexibility. That's not normal. That's not something elite players do unless they believe in something bigger than themselves. And that's where this gets interesting. Because moves like this don't happen in isolation. They happen when a player sees a direction, when he believes in what's being built, when he's confident that what's coming next is worth investing in. And right now, everything points to one thing. The Browns are building around Shedeur Sanders. Not just casually, not just hopping it works, but actively creating the conditions for it to succeed. More cap space, more opportunities, more room to add the pieces this team has been missing. And when a player like Garrett makes a move like this, it sends a message across the entire league. Something is happening in Cleveland. The only question is, are people paying attention before it's too late? Let's slow this down for a second because this wasn't normal. On the surface, it looks like a simple restructure. Just numbers being adjusted, timelines being shifted, money being moved around, the kind of thing teams do every offseason. But this was different. Because Myles Garrett didn't have to agree to this. He's not just any player, he's the best player on the team, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. A guy who could have easily said, "No, I'm keeping everything exactly how it is." And the organization would have had no choice but to respect it. That's the level of power he has. So when someone like that chooses to restructure, it means something. It means this wasn't about business, it was about belief. Because think about it, players at that level don't just give teams more flexibility for no reason. They don't make financial adjustments unless they see a bigger picture, unless they believe the team is close to something. And right now, Garrett clearly believes that. What he just did gives Cleveland more room to operate during the most important part of the offseason. More cap space, more timing flexibility, more opportunities to go out and fix real problems. That's huge. Because now the Browns aren't stuck, they're not limited, they have the ability to make moves that actually impact the roster in a meaningful way. And that's where this shifts from a contract story to something much bigger. This is a signal. A signal that the best player in the building sees something forming, something worth investing in, something worth sacrificing for. And when a move like this happens, it doesn't just stay in the front office. It spreads. The locker room sees it, teammates notice it, other players around the league pay attention to it, because when a superstar buys in like that, it changes how everyone views the organization. It makes people believe. And if that belief is justified, then what's coming next for Cleveland might be a lot bigger than people expect. Now here, where things go from interesting to serious. Because on paper, this looks like a financial adjustment, just shifting timelines, moving money around, creating cap flexibility, the kind of move most fans scroll past without thinking twice. But in reality, this just changed what the Browns are capable of doing. Because cap space in the NFL isn't just about money, it's about timing. It's about when you have the ability to make moves, and what Garrett just did opened a window at the exact moment teams need it most. Free agency, roster building, decision-making season. That's when teams either separate themselves or fall behind. And now, Cleveland has more room to operate during that exact window. More room to sign a receiver, more room to strengthen the offensive line, more room to bring in pieces that actually impact the game, not just depth players, but real contributors. That's the difference. Because before this, there were limits, there were restrictions, every move had to be calculated down to the smallest detail. But now, there's flexibility. And flexibility creates options. But here's the part people aren't fully catching yet. This move wasn't random. It directly connects to what the Browns have been missing. Offensive support. Because if you look at the biggest question surrounding this team, it hasn't been talent, it's been balance. The defense has been elite. The front office has made smart moves, but the offense, that's where the doubts have been. And Garrett just helped address that. Not by making a play on the field, but by creating the opportunity for the team to fix it. That's rare, because most players focus on what they can control directly, their performance, their stats, their role, but this is someone impacting the team at a completely different level. He didn't just make a move. He created possibilities. And when a team suddenly gains that kind of flexibility, things can change fast. One signing, one trade, one smart decision, and suddenly the entire direction of the season looks different. That's what this move unlocked. So no, this wasn't just a contract adjustment. This was a shift. A shift that gives Cleveland a real chance to turn potential into something real. And if they take advantage of it, this could be the move people look back on and say, that's where everything started to change. Now here where this whole story flips, because this isn't just about Myles Garrett. This is about Shedeur Sanders. And if you really connect the dots, what Garrett just did directly affects his future more than anyone else on that roster. Because let's be honest, the biggest question around Shedeur hasn't been talent. It's been the situation. People have been saying the same thing over and over again. Does he have enough around him? Is the offensive line good enough? Are there enough weapons? Can this system actually support him? Those doubts have followed him everywhere. And for the most part, they've been fair. Because even when he's shown flashes, even when he's made plays under pressure, there's always been that one thing holding the conversation back: what's around him isn't good enough. But now, that's starting to change. Because what Garrett just did gives the Browns the ability to fix those exact problems. More cap space means more protection. More cap space means more receivers. More cap space means more chances to build an offense that actually gives a quarterback room to operate. And that's everything. Because quarterbacks don't succeed in isolation. They succeed when the environment around them is built correctly. When the pocket holds, when roots develop, when the offense has structure. And for the first time, it feels like Cleveland is moving in that direction. But here's the part that makes this even more powerful. Shedeur didn't have to ask for any of this. This wasn't pressure from the quarterback. This wasn't a demand. This was a veteran leader on the other side of the ball looking at the situation and deciding, we need to give this offense more. That changes how everything feels. Because now, when Shedeur walks into that building, he knows something important. The best player on the team believes in what's being built around him. And belief like that isn't small. It creates confidence, it creates energy, it creates a different level of expectation not just for him but for the entire offense. And if you've watched his journey, you already know how he responds to that. He doesn't back down from pressure. He rises with it. So now you've got a quarterback preparing for his moment, and a team starting to build the right situation around him at the same time. And if those two things connect, this isn't just about development anymore. This is about a breakout waiting to happen. But this is where the impact goes beyond money and starts hitting the locker room. Because moves like this don't stay on paper, they get felt. When the best player on your team, the one with the most power, the most respect, and the least reason to sacrifice, decides to give something up for everyone else, it sends a message that no speech ever could. It tells the entire team one thing. This is about winning. Not contracts, not stats, not individual recognition, winning. And that kind of message hits differently when it comes from someone like Myles Garrett. Because this isn't a role player trying to prove himself. This is the standard. This is the guy everyone watches, the one whose actions carry weight in every room he walks into. So when he makes a move like this, teammates notice. The offensive line notices. The receivers notice. The young players, especially someone like Shedeur Sanders, notice. Because now the expectation changes. It's no longer just about showing up and doing your job, it's about matching that level of commitment, matching that sacrifice, matching that belief in what the team is building. And that's how culture shifts. Not through speeches, not through hype, but through actions that force everyone else to raise their level. Because once one leader sets that tone, it spreads fast. Players start buying in more, effort increases, focus sharpens, accountability becomes real. And suddenly, you're not just a group of talented individuals. You're a team moving in the same direction. That's what Cleveland is starting to build. And this kind of move doesn't just impact the current roster, it reaches beyond it. Free agents around the league see this. They see a superstar choosing team success over personal gain. They see an organization where players believe in what's being built. And that changes how people view you. Because players want to be part of something real. They want to join situations where the locker room is aligned, where leadership is strong, where everyone is pushing toward the same goal. And right now, Cleveland is starting to send that signal. But here are the key. A culture like this only matters if it turns into results. Because belief is powerful, but it has to be backed up. And if this energy inside the locker room carries onto the field, then this won't just be a feel-good story. It'll be the start of something real. But here's the part nobody is really talking about. This move didn't just help the Browns, it put them on the clock. Because now there are no excuses left. Before this, you could always say the team was limited, that the cap space wasn't there, that certain moves just weren't possible, but after what Myles Garrett just did, that argument is gone. The flexibility is there. The opportunity is there. And now all eyes shift to the front office. Because this is where things get real. When a superstar restructures his contract to help the team, he's not just creating space, he's creating expectation. He's trusting the organization to take that opportunity and turn it into something meaningful. And if they do, that's when questions start. Because now it's not about what they couldn't do, it's about what they chose not to do. And that's pressure. Real pressure. Because the Browns now have options, they can go after a wide receiver, they can strengthen the offensive line, they can make a trade, they can adjust their draft strategy. They're no longer boxed in. But having options is only valuable if you make the right choices. And that's where this offseason becomes critical. Because reports suggest this draft class isn't as straightforward as people hoped. There's no clear, perfect answer sitting at the top. Some players come with risks, others might not fully fit what Cleveland needs right now. So this isn't just about drafting talent anymore. It's about making smart decisions under pressure. Do you stay put and take a risk? Do you trade back and build depth? Do you use the cap space to fill gaps instead of relying on rookies? Every move now matters more than it did before. Because Garrett's decision raised the stakes. He didn't just create flexibility, he created a window. And windows in the NFL don't stay open forever. So now the responsibility shifts. From the players to the front office. Because they've been given everything they need to build something real. The only question now is, do they get it right? Or do they waste the opportunity they were just handed? But here where things get tricky, because this isn't a perfect setup. At first you might think, okay, they've got more cap space, they can just go into the draft and grab exactly what they need. Simple, right? Not this year. Because reports suggest this draft class is a lot more complicated than people expected. There's no clear, guaranteed superstar sitting at the top. No obvious you can't miss pick that solves everything the moment you draft him. Instead, it's a lot of questions. Some of the top offensive tackles have concerns about whether they can stay at that position long-term. Some of the top receivers have injury history that teams are quietly paying attention to, and others might not be true number one options even if they look good on paper. That changes everything. Because now it's not just about picking talent, it's about picking the right fit. And that's a much harder decision. Last year, things felt easier. Teams could go best player available and still feel confident they were getting impact players. The board made sense, the value lined up. This year, not so much. Now every option comes with risk. And that's where the pressure really kicks in. Because if the Browns stay at their spot and take the wrong player, they could miss out on fixing a major weakness. But if they trade back, they risk passing on someone who could have been the answer. There's no safe move. Only calculated ones. And that's exactly why what Myles Garrett did becomes even more important. Because now, the Browns don't have to rely entirely on the draft. They've got flexibility. If the right player isn't there, they can pivot, they can go into free agency, they can make a trade, they can adjust their entire approach without being locked into one decision. That's power. Because in a draft full of uncertainty, having options is everything. And now Cleveland has them. But here's the reality. This also raises the stakes even higher. Because when the path isn't clear, when the margin for error is smaller, every decision matters more. Every move gets magnified, every mistake becomes harder to recover from. So now, it's not just about what they can do. It's about whether they make the right call when it matters most. And this is where everything starts to separate, because now, the Browns have something most teams don't always have at the same time. Options. Real options. Before this move, Cleveland was operating with limits. Every decision had to be tight. Every move had to be calculated down to the smallest detail. There wasn't much room for error, and there definitely wasn't room for creativity. But now, that's changed. Because what Myles Garrett just did didn't just free up money, it gave the Browns flexibility. And in the NFL, flexibility is power. It means you're not stuck. It means you're not forced into one path. It means if plan A doesn't work, you can pivot to plan B without falling apart. And that's huge, especially in an offseason like this. Because now, if the draft doesn't fall the way they want, they don't have to panic. They don't have to reach for a player who doesn't fully fit. They can step back, reassess, and make a smarter move. They can trade. They can sign. They can adjust. That's the advantage. And when a team gains that kind of control over its decisions, things can shift fast. Because now you're not reacting to situations, you're creating them. But here what makes this even more important. This flexibility lines up perfectly with where the team is right now. They're not rebuilding from scratch. They're not trying to figure out their identity. They're right on the edge. They've got pieces in place, they've got a quarterback preparing for his moment, they've got leadership in the locker room. Now they just need the right additions. And that's exactly what flexibility allows you to do, find the missing pieces without forcing it. Because forced moves usually fail. But smart, flexible moves. That's how contenders are built. And if Cleveland uses this the right way, if they stay patient, strategic, and aggressive at the right moments, this could be the difference between being competitive and becoming dangerous. So when you step back and look at everything, this wasn't just a contract move. It was a signal that something real is starting to form in Cleveland. Because think about everything that just lined up at once. You've got a superstar defender willingly restructuring his deal. You've got a front office now sitting on real flexibility. You've got a quarterback preparing for his moment with more support potentially on the way. That's not random. That's alignment. And in the NFL, when talent, belief, and opportunity all line up at the same time, things don't stay quiet for long. They explode. But here's the reality, none of this guarantees anything. Because we've seen situations like this before, teams with talent, teams with hype, teams that looked like they were one move away and still couldn't put it together. That's the risk. Because now, it's no longer about potential. It's about execution. The move has been made. The opportunity has been created. The message has been sent. Now it's on the Browns to respond. Because if they take advantage of this, if they use that cap space the right way, if they surround Shedeur Sanders with the pieces he actually needs, if they stay disciplined and make the right decisions, this could be the moment everything changes. Not just for one season, but for the entire direction of the franchise. But if they do, if they miss on the draft, if they fail to add the right pieces, if they let this window slip, then this move becomes something else entirely. A missed opportunity. And that's what makes this so important right now. Because we're not just watching a team make moves. We're watching a setup. The foundation is being built in real time. And very soon, we're going to find out if it was all leading to something real. Or just another what could have been. So the real question is this. Are the Browns about to finally get it right? Or are we watching history repeat itself all over again?